Roadrunners, it's me again. Sorry, we're not going to be able to meet you in person after all because of the new restrictions, but we are going to make sure that we stay in contact with you online. Now today, we're going to be thinking about food. Well, actually, about a rather special meal. I wonder, what's your favourite meal? Is it breakfast or lunch or dinner? Suppose you were going to have a special meal with some of your best friends before you went away for a long time and you weren't going to see them for a long while. I wonder, what food would you suggest for the meal? Well, Luke's talk today is going to be about someone who had just a meal like that and chose some very special things so that they could all remember the meal. So I'm going to ask you, when I come back a bit later, a couple of questions to see what you think. See you later.
Hello, good morning. We're doing a craft today on the Last Supper of Jesus' last meal before he went. For this craft, you need some foil and a pair of scissors. I'm going to cut off a strip which is about my arm's width, so it's about there. I'll just cut it off. Yours will be a little smaller because you've got smaller hands. So we need to roll it into like a tunnel. We roll it into a tunnel, a tube tunnel shape. So overlap a little bit. And then we're going to about a third way down. So you're thinking of 3 parts, a third way down. You're going to keep your hands here to hold this in place, overlap a little, and squeeze it in there. Squeeze it in and squeeze it all the way to the bottom. And still hold here in place so this doesn't get squeezed in. And then you're going to keep squeezing here in, squeeze it in, squeeze it in. And then to the bottom actually, which is the base of the goblet, we are going to leave out so it can stand. We can try and make it stand. Like that. And then we put it down and push it down so it's standing. And try and make it stand. We'll concentrate on the top bits in a minute. So there, it's just about standing. That's good. But we can then neaten it up now. So you can just fold it in and just make it nice and neat. Like that. That's it standing. And then we can concentrate back on the top bit, just open it out, make sure it's like in a tunnel circular shape. Don't worry if it's not too straight, but it'll be fine. And again, to neaten this, we just fold down the top. You can do it with it standing, or you can hold it. I think it might be easy to hold it up. There. You can kind of do it all the way around. Mine's not so very neat, but you can be really patient and you can get it as neat as you can. And if you've got some time as well, you can decorate it if you like, stickers, and there we have a goblet. So you can remember the Last Supper when Jesus drank with his friends and he ate with his friends. Bye.
Good morning, welcome. Today we are looking at the passage in Matthew 26, verses 17 to 30. If you've got a Bible, go and have a read of that this afternoon. A really good story to read at. I'm just going to do a very rough overview of it. But it is a story all about when Jesus and his friends decided to have a meal together just before what happens in Easter. So actually, it's quite poignant for what's happening right now. And it's all about a special meal where the Israelites remember what God did for them when they left Egypt. Many moons ago, we looked at it many moons ago, it happened to them. Moses rescued the Israelites from slavery in Egypt, and that was the meal they celebrated when that happened. And it's to remember what God did for them. It's to look back and say, God took us out of that situation, and he's got some great things in store for us. And so Jesus and his disciples are celebrating this meal, the Passover meal. He gets two friends to go and prepare the room, get the room ready, and then they all go and join them, and they sit down together and they start to eat. And as they start to eat, Jesus turns around and throws a one-liner at them, and they're like, hold on a minute. And he turns around and he goes, one of you tonight is going to betray me. Everyone's like, wait, what? He's like, one of you tonight is going to betray me. You're going to do something that later you'll wish you hadn't. And I know who it is. And they all started asking, is it me? Is it me? And he didn't say any more. And then they carried on having their meal. They carried on chatting. And then the part of the Last Supper that we know and we remember well happens. And Jesus gets some bread. I've got some bread. And he took the bread and he said, this is my body broken for you. Well, everybody went silent. He then ripped the bread up and he started handing it out to each of the disciples. And then they carried on eating. There probably would have been some conversation, but we don't know. But they then carried on eating. And then a little bit later, Jesus gets the wine. They used to drink wine. You can have anything. I happen to have some summer fruits because that's my favourite squash at the moment. And he grabbed people's glasses and he grabs it and he poured it out. And then he turned to them and he said, this is my blood poured out for you. Now you may recognise this as communion. And it's something we still do today to remember what Jesus did. But for the disciples, this is something new. This is not part of the normal Passover meal. And Jesus is saying all these different things. And they're like, but we're just having a good time chatting about the amazing things we've seen you do, Jesus. We're chatting about the things that we've seen God do in our lives through you. But Jesus knows that about to happen is some real tough times. What's around the corner is not actually what the disciples were expecting. It's been 3 years where they've been with him. They've seen all the miracle things he's done. But around the corner, that very night, like he said at the beginning, one of them is going to betray him. And everything they thought was going well is going to change. And they're in a moment of uncertainty then. But he wanted them to remember at that moment, trust. I'm in control. Trust me, because I know what's happening and it's going to be okay in the end. Now for us, we're almost in the same boat. We've done some weeks at school, which has been amazing. Hopefully you've enjoyed being back at school. We've done some time off in our first lockdown. And as of Thursday gone, we've gone back into lockdown too. You're still at school, so it's all great. But it's changing again for us, for those around you. And it's a time of uncertainty, a time of we don't quite know what's happening. We didn't quite know at the beginning of the year that this is how we were going to end. But actually, the Last Supper helps remind us that with God, we just need to get together, talk with each other, be honest with each other, and trust that God's got the situation. Trust God knows where we're going, and focus on him. Stay looking to God. Stay looking at where he wants you to go. So maybe today when you're having your lunch, or if you're watching this later when you're having your tea, or sometime this week, sit with your family, sit with everyone who's in your house and just be honest with them, chat about them, how you're feeling, and then get together and pray and ask God to help you. Trust him and trust him to where you're heading. Trust him to lead you, guide you where you need to go. And in that way, hopefully, you'll feel a bit better. Because if God's in control, then we don't really need to worry too much. Like, he made you, he made me. He made the world we're living in. He made the tiniest of ants. He made the massive sun. So if he can do all of that, then I'm pretty sure he can help us in the situations we're going through. Sometimes it's good to remember the things he's done, like they were doing in that meal. Look back at the amazing things he's done. Sometimes it's good to look to the future and say, God, I know you have plans for me in the future, so help me stay focused on you and trust you in those plans, especially if we don't know what's happening. Have a great day. I'll pass you back to Nick.
Hi there. As I said, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about what you heard. As you remember, Luke told you about Jesus having a very special meal with his friends before he went away. Can you remember what the special things were that he chose for that meal? There were two things in particular. And can you remember what they represent, those two things? The disciples certainly remembered that Last Supper they had with Jesus. And we remember it too, as Luke told you. We call it communion. So, a very special meal that Jesus shared with his disciples, and one that helps us to remember what he did for us. Anyway, time to go now. Great to be with you again. Hope you have a good week. Bye.